With my co-host Joanne Thomas, our special guest is actor Clay Chappell from the films Footloose in 2011, and he played the Register, a scene with Oprah Winfrey in the film Selma. You were in Footloose in 2011. It's probably one of your first bigger budget feature films, other than your newest one that's very huge.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Now, what was Footloose like for you? Now, you're about maybe 10 months younger than me. I'm sure you've seen the original Footloose in '84, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Now, when you were approached for this one, I mean, what was your thinking? Like, wow, I mean, I love the original. I'm part of the I guess the new boot of it. What was your excitement level as far as being casted in Footloose?
Well, obviously, like you, I love the original. But hey, I'm an actor, so I wanted to be in anything. But Craig Brewer, who wrote it, I wrote the newer version. He kept a lot of the older stuff in it, but it's really kind of a new take on it. It's set in Georgia. It's a little more modern. It's a real, these people, Julianne Hough and Kenny Warmall, who play Ren and Ariel, they're real dancers. Julianne Hough from Dancing with the Stars, and so there wasn't any stunt dancing and all in it. So there's a little more of the dancing part. But Craig Brewer, he was great to work with, and I was very thrilled and fortunate to be cast in it. I made the trailer to it as well, because as Craig puts it, I have the most, the most important line of the movie. I play one of the council men, and one of my lines is that you can't dance anymore, which is what it's all about.
Yeah. Well, see, you got that Southern drawl, and I think that's what really helped you in Selma.
Absolutely. I really, as you can tell, I'm a Southern actor. I'd like to think and hope that, with Selma, it's going to lead to me being a go-to Southern actor now with some larger roles. I like to think I've shown I can hold my own with a big star in a big movie and a big scene. And I had actually kind of quit acting. I moved back to Georgia from Los Angeles when I had my daughter out there, and kind of given up on that and said, hey, it's time to get a real job. But my agent in Atlanta said, hey, they're remaking Footloose, and it's set in Georgia. They're looking for Southern people, and I missed the original round of auditions, but she got me in on the callback, and and that really kind of jump started my re-entry into acting, and with all the stuff that's going on around the South, it's been really neat.
I'm going to let Joanne speak on this about Selma.
He's got supporters. Detroit, New York, Los Angeles, inciting large-scale arrests and sympathy marches.
I'm very aware of that, Mr. Hoover. What I do know is he's nonviolent. What I need to know right now, what's Martin Luther King about to do next?
Mr. President, Dr. King is here.
Mr. President, in the South, there have been thousands of racially motivated murders.
We need your help, Dr. King. This thing's just going to have to wait. It cannot wait. You got one big issue, I got 101.
Selma it is.
Here is the next great battle.
Selma's the place, and they ready.
Dr. King!
I tell you, that white boy can hit.
We will not tolerate agitators attempting to orchestrate a disturbance in this state.
It is unacceptable that they use their power to keep us voiceless. Those that have gone before us say no more.
People actually say they're gonna kill our children. They're trying to get inside of your head.
What happens when a man stands up, says enough is enough?
We built the path as we came, rock by rock.
The sail is probably bugged.
It probably is.
We must march. We must stand up.
You march those people into rural Alabama, it's got to be open season.
May I have a word?
There's no word to be had.
The people
70 million people watching. These pictures are going around the world.
We must make a massive demonstration. White, black, and otherwise. Come to Selma.
I heard about the attack of innocent people. I couldn't just stand by.
Looks like an army out there.
This revolution goes on and on. This revolution goes on and on. My eyes have seen the glory, glory, glory. Hallelujah.
What happens when a man stands up, says enough is enough?
In the north, up here in PA, when I went to school from 74 to 87, Martin Luther King Jr. wasn't really talked about. I mean, obviously, I had a dream and all, but it's not because of any racism up here. It's because, I guess because his assassination was so close to me going to school in 74, and of course at kindergarten, we're not going to understand who he is. So, I just went into it, okay, it's Martin Luther King Jr., yes, he had a speech, and yes, he was fighting for the rights, and that was the end of it. I mean, I'm not racist, obviously. All of a sudden, Selma was advertised on TV for the commercial, being in the theaters, and I don't know what drew me to it, but I went to theaters to go see it. And ever since I've seen Selma, Clay, I've done so much research on Martin Luther King Jr. I've watched the documentary of the March to Washington that was in '63. I've watched, of course, Selma. I've watched, and of course, the assassination, the conspiracy behind who actually killed Martin Luther King Jr. So I've watched all this stuff to get my information because I find it fascinating how the South was. I mean, I didn't realize it that much, but after I watched Selma and the March over the bridge and all the brutality and the racism, it just blows my mind when you see men, women, and blacks as far as bathrooms. I was totally blown away by that. So that led me to you after watching Selma. Selma is one of the most powerful, phenomenal films that I have ever seen out of the non-horror genre. That movie, it just blows me away. And to see you in the film, you made an appearance with Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah.
You were the register. She tried to vote, and obviously back then, before it was passed, she wasn't allowed. And I thought, with that southern drawl that you have, it worked perfect in the part that you played. It just, a director told me, I do some small parts too. A small part is still an important part in the film. And just your scene set the stage for the whole movie. And I just want to say, phenomenal job.
Well, hey, I really, really appreciate you saying that. It means a lot. And I had kind of the same Selma experience that you just spoke of. Even in school here, and even now, I think it's civil rights is kind of touched on. They teach to a certain curriculum, and they just don't have time to cover all of it. And I had no idea, really about what had happened. And seeing Selma opened my eyes. It educated me, and so yeah, I had that same kind of experience. And I tell you, I went and after seeing it and doing some more research like you're talking about.
I was going to ask you about this. I seen your post. I mentioned to Joanne that you guys went to the bridge, correct?
Yeah. January the 18th, celebrating Martin Luther King's birthday, they kind of reenacted the march to the bridge. And then over the bridge. And so that was my first time because I shot my scene with Oprah in Atlanta. And so that was my first time being there and seeing it. And I got chills riding over that thing. And then to join hands with Ava and them and take the march from City Hall down to the bridge and it was pretty incredible, and to have my family there with me and to do it, it was really, really neat. But yeah, thanks for the kind words about Selma. It really is. I think it's a must see for especially all the younger kids, middle school, high schoolers.
After watching Selma, I mean, I kid you not, I've been educating my kids. I mean, not that they don't know, but I was explaining to them my personal feelings from just watching that movie. I mean, we all, Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday is a holiday, but you know what? It's a holiday. I mean, like I said, we weren't really taught that much about him, and now I totally respect him. Now, I didn't before, but now I really do because of what he done and what he went through, and the people in the South period, based in Alabama, the blacks that went through it's unbelievable. Being up here in the North, we don't, like you said, we don't. But it's an amazing film. I mean, David, who played Martin Luther King Jr., I thought was awesome, and it's sad that he wasn't nominated for an Oscar for that role, was he?
No, he wasn't. I saw him, when we were in Selma, and he wasn't bitter. Neither was Ava, who I thought should have got nominated. The movie, that's what they're all about, and what it's all about is the movie.
Right.
But I tell you, you're right, David. I just met him on Selma, and then I saw him in L.A. at the premiere, and I mean, you could hardly recognize him. It's like, oh, this is what he really looks like, and he gained weight for it and cut his hairline back a little bit, and so yeah, he's a great guy too. But absolutely. Good
now,
stuff.
what was your experience of meeting and working with Oprah? She played Annie Lee Cooper.
Yeah, and she's a producer. Oprah kind of came aboard as the story's told, and she really championed it on through, and as she can do, And but Ava asked her to play Annie Lee Cooper, and who's a historical character who's there's pictures of Annie Lee Cooper. She hauled off and hit Sheriff Jim Clark one time at a protest, the story goes she tried to register to vote for like 5 times, and the power was in the hands of the registrar back then. They had the right to vote, but you had to get registered, and the registrars, as was my case, would put them through these questionnaires or would find something wrong on the application. You didn't spell this right, you didn't capitalize. So anyway, that was kind of the gist of our scene. But working with Oprah, during the audition process, I originally went in and read for one of the Klansmen, and Cynthia Stilwell, who was doing the casting, she's like, Clay, I'd like for you to try this registrar role. And so I took it outside, I looked over it, studied a little bit, came back in and did it with Cynthia. And she liked it, and she and I sat there and we talked for like an hour about, and I never had this experience with a casting director before, about this character and what type of person he was. And I grew up in a small town, and we kind of knew who these people were. And so she said, "Will you come back tomorrow and read it for Ava?" So I came back the next day, read it for Ava. Well, actually, I read the Klansman first, and then Cynthia says, Clay's prepared to do the registrar for you. And she's like, oh, okay, because they were originally going to cast that out of New York or L.A. I mean, Ava eventually told me, hey, I read hundreds of actors for that role, and, you were the one. And so I read it, and she kind of perked up, and she gave me some direction, read it a couple more times. And then I left, and I felt good about it. I got called to come back over there a couple of weeks later, and I'm 2 hours away from where they were casting, and they wanted me there in about 2 hours. And I just couldn't do it. I said, I can't make it. I'm sorry. And I thought I may have heard the end of it. But then a week later, my agent called and said, Clay, they haven't booked you yet, but they want you to come to the table read. And, that's when all the actors get around the table that's been cast, and they read the script, and the director makes notes and that kind of thing. So I went to the table read, and I actually read several of the other roles because I guess they had not been cast yet as well. And I, of course, read the registrar, and everyone was there, except for Oprah. And I knew by then that she was playing Annie Lee Cooper, so I knew the scope of this film and what it was going to be. And Ava comes over afterwards. Says, Clay, you did a great job, and good job reading those other roles. And by the way, would you like to play the registrar? And then I'm like, yes. Gave her a big hug, and that's how it happened. I guess I kind of got off topic. You asked me about Oprah. No. Yeah, she was fantastic. I got invited to come over and have lunch with her and the cast a couple of days before. The second AD called me, said she would like to meet you before your scene. So I go over, and she's not working that day. because she really only has a few scenes in the movie. And so we sit around with David and Ava and Common and the rest of the people in the movie and that are working that day, and Oprah, and she tells stories and have a nice lunch, and it was just a really a fun day for me and exciting. And then I went back a couple of days later and we shot our scene late in the afternoon, and she really had nothing to say to me the whole day, which is understandable given the content of the scene. And she was dealing with Maya Angelou had just passed away the day before, and she was filming those scenes where she actually got beat up that morning, and so I'm sure she was in a tough place. However, when we finished our shooting at about midnight, she was just like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders, and she was just her jovial self, and very complimentary, and we laughed, and it was fun. And then I got to see her again in Selma, and then at the premiere in Los Angeles, and I love Oprah. She's done a lot of good for a lot of people, and she's a fantastic lady in my book.
I was out of town for a couple of days working, and I was at the motel, and when you come home, the motels have the movie channel every time you turn the TV on. And I can remember Selma, before it was in the theaters, came on, and if I'm mistaken, wasn't the topic coming up that it said that this movie puts President Lyndon Baines Johnson in a bad light? Did you hear that?
Yeah. There was, there were some people that had that to say, that maybe it wasn't as historically accurate as they thought it should have been. But yeah, there was that out there. As far as painting him in a bad light, I told my wife, I don't understand what they're saying. I got the feeling from watching the movie, and I really not a history buff and didn't know everything, but when I came out of there, I was like, okay, so Lyndon Johnson really, he wanted to help, I didn't think it. Sometimes you want to help, but you've got other things pulling you elsewhere, and you can't help exactly when you want and how you want to, But I didn't get the feeling walking out of there that he was racist and didn't care.
No, and the big thing is he's from Texas. It's the South, and I know if I'm mistaken, I think I was watching that, and as you heard in my review, one thing that irritates me is unless you were there when it happened. If you're a 20-something or a 30-something or a 40-something, who are you to say it's not accurate? Obviously there's going to be. Obviously, there's going to be something added to the movie to make it more interesting, but the bottom line is, you and I were not there. I was born in 68. You were born in 69. Joanne was born in 1930. I'm sorry, that's terrible.
Hey, I was in the 4th grade when all this happened, so I didn't know what's going on either.
So, who are these youngsters to say anything? Get over yourselves. I also read that the sheriff, in real life, obviously, the one who shot the young black activist, remember, in the cafe?
Yeah, Kimberly Johnson.
Yes, and I'm telling you, Clay, I did so much research. I found out that the sheriff who shot the young man ended up going to jail in 2007.
That's right.
A 6-month sentence, and only served 5 because he was ill. And I thought, wow, that almost 40-some years later, or 42 years later, the movie is, that's what fascinates me about Selma, is only that it's sad, it's powerful, it's informative, and I've learned so much from this film, and I think that's why it's so close to me, is because it's just an awesome, powerful film. Not awesome as what happened to them, but it's just this movie should be an Oscar winner. It should be.
It's very powerful. Scott, I need to get you in touch with Stan Houston, the actor who played Sheriff Jim Clark, and he's actually from the same town where Jim Clark, grew up and lived, and he got a lot of backlash for playing that character and playing it the way he did, and I think he's considered moving, and I could let him tell you the story, but he's a good actor, and you'd want to talk to him. Sure.
Right.
Well, my husband's black, so I know of discrimination not only from the black man's point of view, but also from being a white woman married to a black man. And I can tell you that things have changed a lot since, well, I got married 20 years ago, since I got married. So, there's been a whole, even though things aren't the best, I think things have changed a lot, and obviously Selma and everything that happened back then was a big step in that change. And
absolutely,
and I do think that for a lot of people it is going to be a real awakening as to what happened back in the 60s.
Yeah, I hope I hope everybody goes to see it, but I wish more people would see it. That American Sniper, buddy, it came out and took everybody's movie going time, but hopefully people will trickle on in and see Selma. I know it's done well, but it needs to be viewed by more people.
Well, I did go see American Sniper after Selma, so bravo, I seen
Good
Selma
for you,
first.
buddy. Good for you. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I guess they're both somewhat history. I mean, of course, Selma is more history than the Sniper from American Sniper, which it's a good film. I think that Selma is the best film that's in the theaters as of right now. I mean, it opened my eyes, and I'm sure, obviously, you said it opened your eyes. After your experience with Selma, how has it been since it was released in the theaters? I mean, as far as persona, as far as the film, how has it changed you?
Well,
you mentioned about the storyline, like I said, but other than that, how else did it change you?
Well, it's been a lot of fun for me. Been exciting. I get to come talk to great people like y'all and do interviews, and I'd like to say it's opening some doors. I've got a few things. I got another film coming out and some things that I'm waiting to hear back from, and so yeah, it's just kind of been a step in the right direction as far as career-wise for me. We've had a lot of fun with it. My wife and I, we got to go out to L.A. for the premiere and had a Sunday brunch at Oprah's house, which was pretty amazing. And
wow,
so yeah, it's been really cool. I got she had all the all the cast, and then she had all the people who are alive that were portrayed in the movie. Andrew Young.
Oh my God, you're kidding me!
Oh yeah. Diane Nash and C.T. Vivian, John Lewis. So it was pretty cool hanging out with them for a whole weekend. It wasn't just a day. We had a screening of the movie on a Saturday evening, then a huge gala afterwards, and then the next morning we had a gospel brunch at Oprah's house in her outdoor amphitheater, and then big brunch on her 30,000 square foot putting green.
Oh, wow.
That was pretty cool.
I don't know. I go to L.A. quite a bit for screenings and things, and going to something at Oprah's house would probably be much better than some of the ones I've been to.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Now when I lived in L.A. for 5 years, my wife and I, we did the actor thing. We did catering and waited tables and stuff, and so we were like, man, we used to cater these kind of events, and now we're hanging out with everybody. So it was a lot of fun. And,
yeah,
to have Alfre Woodard and CCH Pounder and people I admire come up to me and tell me that's a great job in the movie. I love the scene and
wow.
So it was really neat. And at the brunch I'm sitting next to Ellen and Portia and Tyler Perry's right beside them and everybody else. And Magic Johnson's there and George Lucas, and it was crazy. Just one of them kind of weekends you dream about having.
Clay, I'm very proud of you. I mean, for a guy who is in the mid 40s like I am, and I'm an actor myself, of course, not as that mainstream as you did, but for someone to be a part of something that will never be forgotten. I think this film would be in a level with Color Purple. Remember Color Purple came out in '85 and how powerful that film was? Of course, Oprah was involved in that one as well. and I think this film will a very important film forever in the film industry.
I do too. I agree with you.
All right. Well, Clay, it was great to have you on here. I mean, I hope you didn't mind me contacting you after I seen it. I said, you know what, I need to get somebody from this film on my show to talk about it because, again, this film really impacted me, and it changed my life. So.
Hey, well, I appreciate you telling me that and having me on and reaching out, and it's been a pleasure. All
right, Clay. Thanks a lot for coming on. You take care of yourself, and don't be a stranger. Come back in a couple years or so.
We'll come back and talk about. I got Bessie coming out with Queen Latifah on HBO. So
hey, there you
go.
So,
awesome.
All right. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Clay. Take care, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thank you.